All right, welcome everyone. So happy to have you today. A big welcome from NYCGPA, our president, Alan Gandelman, and the Social Equity Committee. Here with us today, we have a very special expert in his field. He came to us all the way from Binghamton University. Eric Krohn is the Director of Business Incubation Programming at Binghamton University, Koffman Incubator. He is a successful inventor and entrepreneur who leverages his experience in guiding and mentoring companies at the Koffman Southern Tier Incubator and the Innovative Technologies Complex. As Director of Business Incubation, he facilitates programming to help startups grow and succeed, with an emphasis on high-tech, high-growth ventures. Krohn's companies include Gyro Heat Technologies, Be Safe Products, and Cube Naturals. All right. He is currently mentoring startups in 10 different countries, from New York to Oregon, spoken nationally and internationally on Business Model Canvas, started and exited Binghamton's first CBD company. Very cool. He's an honors graduate of the Culinary Institute of America, but he has not dabbled in cannabis edibles yet or consumables. He has a degree in nutrition, worked in geriatrics and HIV and AIDS. He has 2 patents pending for Gyro Heat and Be Safe. All right, did I get that? Our last panelist, I forgot to mention, he came from Legal Aid. I got your institution.
Am I turning red from just all the compliments? That was too nice, Carlos. Thank you so much. So thank you very much. My name is Eric Krohn. I'm in Binghamton, New York, and I work for the Koffman Incubator, as Carlos mentioned, and I wanted to introduce everyone to really what incubators are and how you could use them to your advantage. And then really spend a lot of time answering questions, getting into discussions, and really letting you use me, take information out of my brain, because that's what I'm here for. So we'll go through a slide deck quickly to kind of explain things and paint a picture of what's going on. And then we'll open things up to all of you. Yes, of course. If you have questions, we have a Q&A, and I think we'll do a little raise hand action later on. So Dan, if you will start the PowerPoint there. Perfect.
I don't have the PowerPoint queued up. I thought that was something you or Carlos were handling.
We can bring it right up through share screen on Eric's side.
Yep, I can open up mine, no problem.
Excellent. And I just want to remind everyone that you can raise your hand, and if during the duration of the presentation you have any questions that come up, we will definitely answer them if possible right then and there, and if not, at the end of the presentation. So please don't be shy and let us know your feedback and your perspective and where you currently are in your business process.
Okay, just 12 seconds, my friends. Thank you for bearing with us. Going to wait for this computer to catch up. In fact, if there's any opening questions while we wait for technology, now's a great time. Okay, we're just waiting for PowerPoint. Well, thank you very much for that comment. Okay, we're finally getting there. Again, thank you for your patience. Let me try sharing. All right, let's get this party started. Bam. Hopefully you see just the opening screen. Is that good, Carlos? Awesome, thank you.
Yes.
So again, first of all, I want to thank the association for having me here and allowing me to really explain how entrepreneurs can leverage incubators. And that's really what we're here to talk about. So the first thing I wanted to start with, we'll see if this works, hopefully, is a live poll. That's right, we're going to try to make this a little bit active today. So my question to all of you, because I've introduced myself and I want to know about you, what are your plans within New York State cannabis? If you are able, please feel free to text Eric Krohn 593 or text that answer to it. And I think that's how it works. And you can either download the app or try it on your phone. We'll see if this works. This is a little bit another experiment. We're trying to bring some modern technology into boring PowerPoints. But if we don't see
right there, Eric, I'm creating a poll in Zoom right now.
Gotcha. See some answers coming up on chat. Thank you. So, and I think this is a great, I'll explain why I like starting here. Besides really trying to understand who the audience is, and so I can really speak to all of you, really kind of the flavor of today's conversation is incubators and how that fits with social equity. And I think what's really important that I want to hopefully get across to everyone today is all incubators are different. They're like snowflakes. There's no two that are really alike. And I mean that from both a financial standpoint to just how things work. And so it's just very interesting to see what people want to explore as far as careers. And that way, as an incubator staff, we're able to kind of alter or specialize or refer you to those who are really good at what you're doing. So I'll just go ahead,
Eric,
Dan.
are you able to see the poll results? We've got 65, almost 70% of participants polling in. We've got 6% growers, 22% growers, 43% retail, 11% cannabis food and beverages, 22% anything in the cannabis world, and 4% learn about cannabis.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Great. Yeah, retail seems to be very, very popular. So I am so glad all of you are joining us to see how we can help. So thank you, Dan. Thank you for your assistance. Let's start with this question. Besides the last one that I got to know you, what is an incubator? It seems that most people, when we ask this question, what is an incubator? Is it that place where we get eggs, right? They must be making eggs in Binghamton. No, we're not making, I could make a pretty good omelet, but no, we're not making eggs, in fact. There you go. What we are doing is incubating companies, much like that styrofoam beer cooler is incubating eggs to turn it into something bigger and better. And that's what we try to do with entrepreneurs. So essentially, incubators are a mashup of startups, mentors, and tons of opportunity. And that's really what's important here, is that we have to understand that these are buildings that end up creating a community of entrepreneurs from all different types. So, oops, here we go. This is my home. Got the t-shirt, you gotta keep working on branding, right? This is the Koffman Incubator. We opened in April of 2017. We're in downtown Binghamton. It used to just be like this empty lot. We have 65 startup members, 10, actually, I think I need to update this now with I think we're close to 20 international companies. Since 2019, our companies have raised $153 million. To be fair, most of that came from one company who's manufacturing batteries, but nonetheless, we have many, many companies that raise millions of dollars, and they have completely different backgrounds, different types of CEOs. They come from different countries, and that's really the beauty of this place. So quick question, I'm just going to burn through this. We will not even try to do the poll this time, but think about this in your heads. You can throw fingers up, not that I can see them. How many startups are formed every hour? Think about that. In the United States, how many people are deciding, I'm going to make a startup today? I think the answer will surprise you. 11,000. 11,000. So that's 3 every second. That's a lot, right? That's almost on par with people that are making restaurants. But here's the clinch. How many of these startups fail? Ooh, ugly word. 90%. 90% of those startups fail. However, 60% of all startups succeed, statistically, when they go through incubation or through incubators, if you will. And the reason for that is these 6 things, really. The mentorship. So you get to listen to dudes like me. But no, honestly, all incubators are filled with people that have had companies in their past. They've had successes, they've had failures. And off of that, they're able to help guide you, not tell you, but guide on how to make your desired future actually happen, how to make it viable, how to make it feasible. Then networking, right? So we talked about this building is filled with entrepreneurs, people that want to work with entrepreneurs, want to come here. We know all sorts of people. We're connected with people because we're constantly doing events and workshops and things. The networking that you can find at any incubator is worth its weight in gold, because people you can't buy and you can't make, you can only meet them. And I think that's very important. And that's really what these workshops that the association is so kind in putting on is helping you do, or their Slack channel, networking. There is nothing more important. Investments, right? Everyone needs money, holy cow. But let me tell you, there are ways to do it and there are ways not to do it. So we spend a lot of time working with companies on just kind of best practice. We have programs, and when I say we, I mean all incubators. It's just kind of a general thing that they do. We have programs to teach people how to become successful entrepreneurs. And that's why we're able to make the percentage of successful startups so much better than what happens if you don't go through incubation. There's workshops. A lot of incubators have deals with other companies like Amazon, where if you have websites or things that need to be hosted, we have free money for you. And really all of these things make an incubator. So where do you find these things, right? Because we're not on farms. Well, maybe some of us are, but we're not making eggs on farms. In fact, we are all over New York State. This is just one organization. It's our association for incubators, and there's 130 members just in that association, which means there's 130 incubators throughout New York State that are communicating with us and trying to perform best practice and trying to reach out to all sorts of people to help, because that's really what incubators are supposed to do. To name a few, if you're close to the southern tier or western New York or even eastern New York region, I just like to point a few of these people out. CADE, the Center for Agricultural Development and Entrepreneurship towards the Oneonta area, wonderful organization. Incubator Works over in the Elmira Corning area, Cornell Co-op throughout New York. These are just free organizations that you can work with. You can perhaps become members in a certain way, but they have free programming. This is the point, right? We need to level the playing field when we're starting companies in New York by getting the same networking, the same tools, and the same resources that other people have. By reaching out to organizations that are close to you or close to what you're trying to work on, we can go so much farther in that creation phase because they're there to help you. And this is the secrets, right? This is the team that you don't have to pay for and you don't have to give equity in your company away. They exist to help startups. So we'll make this a don't bother answering, but what is a business model canvas? You're going to hear me talk about this. I'm sure Carlos and I will talk about this. It is not something that you paint and put on the wall. It is, in fact, this box. So a lot of you might have heard this term, business plan. I don't know about you, but by the time I got through the 80 pages of making a business plan, I wanted to burn it. And then I realized I had to redo it anyways because something changed and it just became a piece of junk. Well, a lot of people in the world thought the exact same thing. And about 20 years ago, Alex Osterwalder over in Switzerland decided to take this huge mammoth thing called a business plan and turn it into a one-page business model canvas. This chart right here is what I teach actually internationally. It is used by students, it's used by startups, it's used by Fortune 500 companies, it's used by everybody except for banks. Banks are the only people that still use business plans. But the BMC is this living tool. It is the tool that I use to teach entrepreneurs to allow them to, again, level that playing field, to compete against these other people that have MBAs and maybe they have other people's money that they can use to start things and organize and create these large teams. But you know what, folks? You don't have to have all that. This is the tool that everybody uses. And so that's why we teach so much of it. Selfless promotion, we'll get through this real quick. Let's just skip that. But if anyone is interested, I do have a cannabis business accelerator coming up. You can learn more by going to the Koffman website, selfless promotion. But really, I think it's time to get to the core or the gold of what we wanted to do today. And I really want to hear from you what questions you have about entrepreneurship, about how incubators can help, about anything in business. I really want to open this up. But before I really want to thank the New York Cannabis Growers and Processors Association for allowing me to be here and talk about how all of you and how the association's members can really use these free resources and tools to be competitive in the upcoming New York State cannabis market. So with that, I think we'll go to opening up any questions or comments.
And Eric, I wanted to briefly touch on how great Binghamton is as an institution. They are accessible, they're a public flagship school, and they really are an incredible resource to have in the state.
Yeah, thank you so much. Just to tote on my employer in case any of them are watching. We actually have a lot of work in clean energy at Binghamton University. And trust me, if you want to talk about a budding sector in cannabis, energy is exactly a wonderful place to go. But we have our esteemed professor, Stan Whittingham, who is actually the father of the lithium-ion battery. He received the Nobel Prize, I think it was 2 years ago. He is at Binghamton University. So just to give a little weight to what our state universities are doing, that's just how big it is. It really is an amazing institution and goes to show, I think, how much the state really puts into programs and education and finding the best talent possible. So thank you for that, Carlos.
Of course, some of the best advice I got when I was beginning my company in cannabis was to find mentors that didn't look like you, and to really understand and how to bridge gaps of understanding between other people and other communities. We are seeing such a dramatic change from the pre-prohibition period to post-prohibition period. And we have this transition in between. And what should that transition look like to really impact the communities that were impacted by the war on drugs and who the MRTA seeks to assist? So we do have a question here. It says, it is about social equity. Yes, our New York State model. Do you want to talk a little bit what makes our cannabis supply chain model so different from other states, Eric, and how maybe social equity incubators will play a role in defining and distinguishing our cannabis market from other states?
So I won't touch on what other states are doing because, to be honest, I'm not educated in that. I think since the time that I owned a CBD company, a lot has probably changed. We used to buy CBD for like $7,800 a pound, and what is it now, 300? So I feel like I'm old already in that. Let me tell you how New York State can leverage itself, and this is a conversation, Carlos, you and I have had, and I've had this conversation with a lot of the cannabis companies I'm mentoring now. In New York, well, let me start with a very common language in the business world is this idea of a bell curve, so the shape of a bell. And when it comes to business, we really want to steer people towards the center of this bell curve, if you will. And that basically means that you're selling to the masses, to the 68% of a market that you're in. In cannabis, it's kind of the opposite in my experience. And this is where social equity applicants, this is where really that's not even how I'd like to define it. This is where people that have a unique value, something different. What I try to get across to the people I mentor is instead of aiming for that center, instead of aiming for the masses, I suggest you aim for the end point. So what I mean by that is don't go for what everyone else is doing. What you need to do is find out what resources do you have that might give you an advantage? What plans, what people might you have that give you an advantage? And how can you create something unique that you can offer the people of New York or whoever for that matter, but a unique value that the masses or these whale corporations are not offering because they can, because they're there to provide that core center, the mass, it's like selling swag. It's for the masses. But if you want to distinguish yourself, and that's really where entrepreneurship comes, because they're really not going to be able to do that. You need to aim for the edges. You need to find something different, unique, that provides a value customers are asking for.
Absolutely. New York State has made it such a goal to make sustainability, regenerative farming practices a foundation of our cannabis industry, while other states have not. Do you think, how valuable do you think this is to communities here in New York State?
It's a great question. Thank you. I think there's 2 points there, and I laugh at myself because coming from Binghamton and the incubator, my first thought is always energy. But we really should talk about that for a second. For everyone that is getting into cultivation or nurseries and perhaps even retail with the HVAC that might be required, energy consumption, that's a big topic here. And actually a lot of people in the state, I don't think are quite realize how much energy draw there's going to be. So figuring that out now is huge. In fact, it should be in everyone's application plans, in my opinion. But look, you're not alone. You're not alone. You can contact, there's an organization called NYSERDA, NYSERDA, the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority. So for all of us that live in New York State, take a look at your energy bill and you'll see every bill has this little bit of money that goes to NYSERDA. So these are the people whose job it is to help make New York State energy efficient. So use them. And I bring this up because energy is a huge cost. And if you can figure out methods within the state to pay for or mitigate that cost, that creates an advantage. But more importantly than energy, the other side of that coin, Carlos, I think is the idea of keeping money local, keeping money within communities. And so if anyone out there really starts studying the business model canvas, one of the sections is called customer relationships. Now, what that really means, at least to me and a lot of the folks that teach the BMC from the Strategizer group, it means what's going to keep customers coming back to you instead of your competitors. And there's all sorts of techniques to do this. Some of it could be, like your punch card you get in a coffee shop, buy 9, get the 10th free. But that's really the point here is when you are setting up your cannabis shops or retails or whatever it is that you're doing, what kind of plans, what kind of things can you add into that business model that make people want to keep coming back to you every time? Right? And maybe it's not even something that happens in the store, but maybe it's just because it's a community thing, or maybe it's, hey, I want to support you and not the other guys. Or maybe it's, hey, you're very educational, I keep coming back for the education or the community. But that's really what we have to do, is create this engine that drives people back to us. So, right, 2 circles there. Energy, we really got to think about this, people. And the other one is keep money local, keep it within our communities. And the way to do that is creating some sort of device that brings people, that makes people want to come back. So just a quick example, I'm working with a company in Oregon, and he's actually a recycling company for the plastic that's used in cannabis containers. And he's bringing it to retail stores and talking them into giving discounts to the customers who recycle plastic. That is a customer relationship. Why would you not want to go to that store now, recycle your plastic so you're not killing the earth? Hello, it's like Earth Day pretty soon, people. And then buy a blunt for $1. Great relationship. Keeps money, keeps plastic, keeps the earth happy. Everything is in this beautiful little circle right in their community. So hopefully that wasn't too long of an answer.
No, it wasn't. And I'd also love to see some hemp-based packaging. That, no plastic involved. That's even better.
I know. I'd love it. Reach out if you're one of those companies.
Of course. I also wanted to continue talking about the differences that between what we're doing here in New York State and what some other corporations may have done in other states. What is the extractive corporate model, and how does it differ from, for example, some of the businesses that you're incubating?
Yeah, that's I think a very serious question that everyone is probably looking at is what is the difference between startups and, what I call these whales, these giant corporates, and what is their intent? So I do track these things. I actually find it very interesting to see what these giant corporate companies are doing. And they are really not unlike any other company that files for IPO, which means they have stock out there. It means the community owns the world. You can buy stock in these companies. I own stock in a few of them. And what happens once you do that, once you enter that world, they are driven by growth. And so they will buy companies, they will take out companies, they will work with companies, they will do whatever it takes to grow, because that's what shareholders want, and that's really what an IPO'd company is there to do. It's not positive for most people. It's not negative, because you could learn to work with these companies. I've heard them I have video of them telling us live, hey, we will buy other people's products. Let's hold them to it, people, because they said it on live. But what we have to do is be different. So we have a term, it's probably overused, but it's really true, craft. These craft growers are craft retail stores. And again, what we're talking about is staying on the outside of that bell curve, staying on either side of it. We're not doing what the masses are doing, because that's what the corporates are stuck doing. They want to sell product, masses of it, so that they make money, so that their share prices go up. People buy the stock, and that's how they make money. So that's how I think we need to maneuver ourselves, or do what's different than their model, is we're actually trying to serve people, what the people, our customers, desire. Corporates at that size, it's not necessarily that same methodology. What they're looking at is, how do we sell the most? And I think that's very different. It actually goes against a lot of business practices, really discovering what people desire and then providing that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And many times, individuals from the communities most harmed by drugs are made subservient or not necessarily see themselves their best fit role as being an employee for these companies. And so what are they left with then? And this is why our supply chain is so special, because it really gives the opportunity for more companies to grow, more jobs to be created, and just more competition overall. More competition than you'll find in other states, really.
I agree. And let me just add one more point, because that's excellent, Carlos. I honestly, I work with some other folks. They're not in the cannabis world, but they're not white. And to be honest, I constantly tell them, you need to go to people's faces who are spending money with, let's say white companies. And I want you to go to their face and ask them, how many companies do you work with that have a Black owner or a female owner? And really put it right on them. And honestly, people, anyone listening to this, if go up to these big whale of cannabis companies and say, are you buying any products from whatever company you are? And just throw it right back at them. Because if they have a good answer, they have a good answer. If they don't, make them feel guilty. It's what my people do. So really, I would throw that back at. That really has proven to be a very powerful strategy, because people do not want to be known as being a siloed company. They want to have that appearance of being open to everyone. So let's hold them to it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Earlier, you touched on the diversity of incubators, and I'd like to talk a little bit more about that. Eric, Professor Krohn, your students say that you say a lot, each and every incubator is as unique and special as the startups they foster. Can you tell me what that means?
Yeah, that's really, when I first got into the business world, I really found it to be very beautiful, because it really didn't matter what your background was, what you looked like, who you were. It really just mattered what you were doing and the actions you took. With that said, yes, there absolutely is systemic racism and other bad things, because obviously I was just starting. I didn't get to see it. But there's ways that we can really prevent that in the future. And the beauty of incubators is that they are as diverse as the people in the state that they exist. So, for instance, it could be economics. So the Koffman is supported by sponsors, it's supported by rent, and it's supported by the university. But there's other incubators out there that are maybe purely rent-based. There's some that take equity. There's just all sorts of things. But then that's just economics. Then there's incubators that really are very good at agriculture. There's some that are really good at even cannabis genetics. There's some that are great at clean energy. And so the point is, talk to incubators. If you want to learn about business, if you want to jump ahead through programs, I really challenge everyone to look at incubators that are close to you. Maybe they're at a community school, maybe they're at a university, maybe they're completely separate, because most of them are not attached to a university, trust me. And I want you to talk to them. Go there, take a free workshop, because it should be free. Do a networking event. But really, both entities need to interview each other. The job of the entrepreneur, or what I challenge all of you to do, I think I've thrown out 2 challenges already, here's a third. I want you to find the incubator that specializes or has a background in what you want to do, and I want you to find the people at the incubator that will give you every advantage that they have. And that's really what it is. You need to take from us and accomplish your goals. And that's really the best route for using these institutions, is use us, take our information, ask questions nonstop, go to every event, because that's how I did it. That's how a lot of my peers did it. We just use, and take. And that's okay, because people like me want to help. So reach out, find the closest incubators you can, and ask them for help. And if they're not the one, go to another one. They're all over the place.
Excellent. And now that we're touching a little bit about how incubators have a use for, across all applications and occupations in the cannabis industry, let's talk a little bit about the legacy market and how to be inclusive of the people who really began the cannabis industry here in New York State and make sure that they have the tools to succeed in their transition from the legacy market to the lawful market. It's not an easy transition and they need support. So how can incubators play a role in supporting this transition?
Yeah, great question again. I think, and I hate to keep bringing up the exact same idea here, but escape the bell curve. If you are a legacy grower, or maybe we can just call it experienced, you are the folks that have the knowledge about making great cannabis. And if we lose you, if you're not there to pass down those skills, that knowledge to future generations, what is that doing for cannabis in general? So really what I think everyone should do, or what I recommend, I mean, come on, who doesn't have a friend that is in that category anyways? Find out what it will take for you to join the, for lack of a better word, tax-paying market, because we need you. The world needs better growers. The world needs evolved cannabis. And please, please do not keep growing the same junk that these giant whales are growing. We need the variety. And so to do that, really, you just need to take a look at yourself. What are your values, right? Do you have the best genetics? Are you just the best grower? What is it that separates you from everybody else? Find out then, what is it that I have to do to achieve my goal? So a lot of that, let's start with just what is New York saying for your licensure? What do they want for regulations? Okay, great. Let's make that as an end goal. And then we just need to start filling out the middle from there. So again, I want to repeat this. Find out who you are. I really want you to look at yourself as that beginning point. What makes you better? What gives you that advantage? Because we're going to hold on to that and strengthen it. And then I want you to look at the end point, right? Getting that license. If you're a cultivator, how are you going to get it tested? How are you going to ship it? How are you going to transport it? How are you going to trim it? All those things, right? We got to think about that. But then when we have A and we have Z, it's just filling in the letters in between. And no, of course, it's not that easy. But that's where incubators can come in handy. That's where going to association workshops to learn about different topics that you should be asking. And so really putting all those pieces together to attach, A to Z, that's the best process we have. But that's also, again, why I want to really push people to learn about the business model canvas, because as New York State rules and regulations change, as federal regulations change, we need to be able to adapt our business model so that we don't die out, right? We have to stay strong. And so we have to make an adaptable business. And the only way to do that is to look at A, to look at Z, and then put all the other letters together in between.
Absolutely. I just want to remind everyone that if you have questions, you can ask them in the chat. You can also raise your hand and we can call on you if you'd like. I want to make a quick announcement. I know we have a lot of questions about retail. The conditional retail licenses for just as involved individuals, for friends and family or individuals themselves who are listening. We are looking for at a summer, July, early August release of our applications for conditional retail licensing. So it's very exciting. I know everyone is eager to begin work, but just stay a little bit more patient because it's coming. And we look forward to hopefully seeing you at NYCGPA as a member. Please go to nycgpa.org/join, or you can email me at social.equity@nycgpa.org. Again, it's social.equity@nycgpa.org to stay abreast of these opportunities and dates.
I think we certainly have time for more questions.
We do. I'm interested in growing cannabis. How do I get a license to grow? Well, we've touched on some of these things. A lot of it is staying educated, staying on top of latest updates and developments. Someone asked also if how are you supposed to create a business plan if no regulations are out? You know, that's definitely a challenge. There is no right question to that. It's definitely up to you and the area that you work in. Cannabis is really diverse, but maybe Eric can give us a little bit more insight into how do you build a business plan when you have so many moving parts? Regulations are still moving. Do you constantly financial model everything?
Yeah, great question. It's amazing how many people are making tons of money making business plans for people, and we have no idea what you're supposed to be planning yet. So I totally feel you. But there is actually an answer, and it's as much as you can, right? So you know, the first step is really, again, what are you doing that is either benefiting the community or creating a unique advantage? And if we base our business plan off of that, that's a great first step. One of the things I see a lot is people saying things like totally innovative or revolutionary, this, that, and the other thing. Let me tell you, my friends, those words mean jack, right? So if you see those words in your business plan, let's actually redefine them and state exactly how it's going to be revolutionary. Like specifically, if we start looking at, well, how much, if you want to make a retail spot, okay, great. Where are you going to do that? How much does it cost? Is that city allowing that there? What are the taxes like? And if you just figure out all these answers, which you can do today, there's nothing stopping you, you can really come up with a very good business plan and really point out a lot of stuff. You can then go to business folks in your community and say, what am I missing here? What have I not thought of, either as something I have to pay for, whether that could be, you know, are you all full-time employees giving health insurance? Are you all part-time employees? Is there other revenue streams besides just retailing, you know, maybe TV shows, shirts, I don't know. But really thinking of, I would actually spend as much time thinking about costs as you can, more than revenue. Think about costs, because costs kill a company. Revenues make a company. So let's make sure that we're staying alive. Then we'll make sure that we're, you know, floating on a boat in the Caribbean somewhere. But really, I would start your business plans by just really figuring all those things out and saying, where's my advantage here? And how am I going to answer that? And you can really get quite far, but make sure to bounce it off people. Make sure you're extremely specific. And of course, the magic word is quantitative. So instead of your business plan just being words, I really want numbers. Show me numbers, math on cost, maybe percentage of people for this, or how many people actually live in the city, and then what percentage of them are cannabis friendly. So language like that will actually get you extremely far.
Absolutely. Earlier, you know, when we touched on keeping money and business local and tied to New York State communities, it got me thinking about it. Sometimes other states have provided licenses for social equity businesses, but they have not provided the means for them to be successful. And that is a huge, huge, huge part of this industry, is having the staying power to be a part of your community long enough to make an impact. Hopefully our work will evolve as we age with the new lawful market, and we will continue to advance novel concepts that advance the communities where they were most harmed by the war on drugs, and the transactions and the communities where cannabis transactions take place in, as well as the environment where they live. You know, a lot of people forget about the environment is very, very important part of our cannabis industry in New York State. All the way from farmers like Alan Gandelman to retailers making the final sale to the consumer. Every part of the supply chain has its responsibilities to social equity and regenerative farming practices and the environment.
So I think it's a great point. I mean, we can even start this conversation outside of cannabis and look at just what's happening around the nation, especially within the last 2 years. And what I see is what I would call decentralization. Our food, meat during COVID, I think there are some problems that, there's only like 6 meat processors in all of the United States that all of the meat comes from, unless you're lucky enough to buy from a farm. And, 2 of them goes down, it's awful, and you get bad product. And so to bring that to cannabis, really, it's that same sort of idea that we need to decentralize and go back to community farms. Like, Binghamton, we have all these community farms, and then they have farmers market things on weekends, and they are employing young folk from that actual neighborhood to come work the farms and learn how to do that work. And I really see that there's a lot of power in that, not just because we're keeping money in our community, in fact, very micro localized in those instances, but I think it actually creates pride. And when we have pride in what we're doing, when we have pride in our house, our neighborhood, our work, excuse me, our community, I think that really strengthens things. And in fact, when competitors or whatever large corporations want to move into neighborhoods that have such a strong neighborhood bond like that, they realize that they can't do it because they don't fit, that they're just not part of that community. And in cannabis, I think it's very easy, and it's kind of already in a way in that sort of box, if you will, that we're already filled with small communities. I mean, cannabis has been underground for so many years that it's just kind of second nature to not share names or hey, this is my group. I don't need those other people to know about my circle. But now it's legal, and so we're going to see that happen in neighborhood businesses, and it could be retail, cultivation, lounge, B&B, anything. But this identity of being part of the same group, part of the same neighborhood, right? It's not just some giant building that sells pot. That's not actually what I think New York is interested in. They want to have unique values that come from their own community, and I think that it's an equation that just it never loses. It really doesn't.
Absolutely. And Eric, earlier you said that there were a lot of companies that were already earning money from designing business plans for entrepreneurs and their entities that they're forming. How can we prevent fraud, and how can we prevent predation of these individuals from people who seek to exploit them?
That's a hard question. I may not have the best answer to it, to be honest with you. I don't know what sort of practices people like these giant corporations might employ. And in fact, once people do know, even small companies will do them. There's negative people out there. But I just want to reiterate, it's very easy in some ways to defeat such negativity in business. And that's by having a transparent community. By going, so a weird nuance of startups and incubators is we celebrate failure. Very true. Look it up all around the world. We're very big on celebrating failure. And in fact, in educating about business, we would rather people fail fast to succeed sooner. I think that's my quote. I'm not sure if I made that up or I'm getting old, but it's very true. And having that sort of mentality and openness, that transparency, allows us to talk about things, to talk about business loss, to talk about money, income, whatever. And in doing that, we can kind of bounce ideas off each other and say, hey, look, this group just offered me this is the contract that they're offering. And we could look at it and say, they're going to steal this from you. That's not what you should be doing. And in fact, I have this conversation all the time, even with friends that start businesses. And I'm like, wait, you did what? Like, that doesn't make any sense. But that's really the best thing to do. And that's, again, the value of incubators is being around all the other people like you that are in business and just want to succeed and have this really, it's nothing with the self. It's not this ego thing that drives them. It's like an artist that just has to paint. I don't know why I have to paint, just have to paint. We start businesses because we just have to start businesses. And if we can share that experience with others, whether it's successes or failures or opportunities, then we can kind of all watch each other's back. And again, we have that neighborhood.
Eric, I know you and I talked privately about why incubators should be decoupled from funding, and why that is such an important separation. Can you tell me how that separation, because it's present here in New York State with the fund being separate from incubators, how will that decoupling help social equity applicants succeed?
I think that's a great question. So to start with myself, I'm a state employee. The Koffman is very closely related to the state. So from just a moralistic point of view, it's good to be separated from that money. In fact, the reason why I exited my CBD companies, it wasn't because I just wanted to cash out and buy a boat. I would never buy a boat. But because I'm mentoring so many cannabis companies, I thought it was a complete conflict of interest. And so I don't want to do that. Rather, I don't know, do something else with it. And so it makes it much more competitive. If you have to understand from my point of view or the incubator's point of view, we compete through the successes of our companies. And when I say compete, it's really maybe a little bit bragging rights. You know, we have other universities that are a little bit more well endowed financially than Binghamton, so you try to compete with them, friendly wise. But even just statistically, going all the way up to the governor, we want successes. And so by separating us from this ability to just hand things out based on what we see, I like it better when we help these companies compete for that funding. And when it's coming from a neutral party, no one can say, oh, it was slanted because of politics, or slanted because of this, that, or self-interest. Again, clean, transparent business. There's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. If anyone out there is starting a business with partners, clean, transparent business. Start right off with, hey, what happens if someone dies? Like, who inherits the business? Is it a relative, or does it go back to you? What sort of equity percents are we going to do? Like, have those conversations at the very beginning, like the first day over dinner, then get into all the other stuff, because transparency is the only way that we can really balance things out and make sure that we're running exactly how we should to get from A to Z.
Excellent. I think we are just about time. Thank you, Eric, for coming and teaching me. You taught me a lot too, but teaching everyone at the association and everyone who's watching a lot about entrepreneurship and how this is hard work, but with the right resources and the right help, that is definitely achievable no matter where you come from, no matter if you're called a social equity applicant, that success can be for you too, and that there is no color to that. So awesome. I don't think we have any more questions. If you have anything left to say, Eric?
Yeah, I just, I want to thank all of you for joining us and for all the questions you gave. I love the minds working. I truly, truly believe that all of you, and really, again, thanks to the association too for being the voice, all of you have the ability and tools to empower yourself to compete. They're free tools, there's free things. You have the ability to compete against these MBA, C-level, C-suite dudes, and women. I don't mean to say that, but if you look statistically, 90% dudes. You can get yourself right to that same structure beginning point where the only thing you need after that is hard work and innovation. And I know all of you can do it because you're here now learning and taking interest. And so I want all of you to know that you have the power to do this. And there are all sorts of people like the association and the incubators throughout New York State or even the world that are there to help you do it because we want you to succeed. So thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it.
Excellent. Have a great evening, everyone, and take care.